Hello and welcome to Sunflower Philosophy Tarot. My name is Juliana, and today's Timeless Pick a Card reading is going to be a reminder that you could use. And this could be something that maybe you had an epiphany about a while ago, and then you know, how we sometimes realize things and we have a whole new way of seeing the world, and then sometimes we fall back into old ways or we just sort of forget what that was all about. This is something that's coming back around for you right now. So you could also think of it as like every tarot reading is kind of a reminder, because it's not necessarily supposed to be things that you don't know already. It's supposed to be kind of telling you things that you already realize and understand, but like affirming and confirming and maybe exploring that more deeply for you. So you could just see this also as like a reminder in the spiritual sense of something that you already knew being revealed to you on a deeper level. But whatever comes through for you, we're always going to leave it open on this channel for whatever messages want to come up. So I'm going to get into the brief centering exercise I always do before these readings, before I get into the group selection here. So if you're joining me for the brief centering exercise, stick around. If not, you can skip ahead to the group selection, and the timestamps are all in the description or the pinned comment. So have fun with that. But for those of you who are here for the centering exercise, if you are able to, please get comfortable. And if you are safe to do so, you may close your eyes. Of course, if you are in the middle of any kind of activity that demands your attention, or you're driving or anything like that, please, you may want to skip this and come back another time. But definitely do not close your eyes if you cannot do so at this moment. We are getting relaxed now. So settle in to the surface that you are sitting on or resting on. Inhale, exhale. Bring your attention to your breathing. And as you just notice your breathing and pay attention to it, you may intend to release tension with each and every exhale, just sinking more and more deeply into the surface that you are resting on with each exhale. And whatever way that you are resting right now, whether you're seated with your feet on the floor or you are lying on your back, whatever you're doing, if you feel comfortable doing so, you may imagine roots growing from your body down deep into the earth, grounding you, securing you to the earth. And this may be a grounding exercise that you're familiar with, or it may be a visualization that's new for you, but regardless, focus on feeling anchored, feeling secured, feeling connected with the earth, no matter where you are right now. And imagine at this time that you are releasing any energy through your roots that does not belong to you, just releasing that back to the earth as love, allowing any energies that are just simply not serving you or not belonging to you from your system. And once all of that energy is released, imagine now that you're drawing up new, loving, healthy, earthly energy through your roots, up through your root system, into your body, into your energy system, your chakras, however you want to imagine it. And it's this pure golden light, or whatever color really comes to you. And it's just filling up your body, replacing all that energy that you just released with a healing, grounding energy. And now you may imagine Now that you're securely grounded to the earth, you may imagine pure white light, pure white energy floating down over your body from above. Also connecting with your system, bringing healing, bringing relaxation, bringing wisdom, bringing a deeper connection with your higher mind, your higher self, whatever spiritual energies you are connecting with, that are connecting with you now for the highest good of all, helping bring you clarity to move in the direction that you want to move in this lifetime. And imagine all of this light energy creates a sacred space around you, your own personal bubble, where you can safely exist and remain within your own energy, and set the intention now to easily discern the groups, the messages that are meant for you, that are truly yours to hear right now, and know that what is truly meant for you will find its way to you. And now you may pause the video if you would wish to sit in this meditation for a bit longer. But for those of you who are ready to move on to the reading, feel free to join me in the group selection now. Okay, so thank you to everyone who joined me for the centering exercise, and thank you to everyone who's just here in general for the group selection. I'm going to get into the groups now. We're keeping this very simple today. I had 3 different candies: Fruit by the Foot, Fruit Roll-Ups, and Gushers. Group 1 is the Fruit by the Foot. Group 2 is the Fruit Roll-Ups. And Group 3 is the Gushers. So you could pick your favorite candy if you're familiar with these candies. If you're not, you could just go by vibes. But these are candies that are pretty nostalgic to my childhood. Definitely not candies that I normally eat nowadays. I just saw them at the dollar store the other day, and they brought me a blast of nostalgia. So I figured for some people out there, they'd probably do the same. So that is what we're working with today. Just use your intuition. You can go buy these candies. You can go buy the timestamps. You can just go by vibes alone. And I am excited for this reading, so I will see you over in your group now. Hi, Group 1. If you selected the Fruit by the Foot, then you're in the right place, and this is your reading with your reminders from Spirit, or whatever you want to connect with. And we're just going to keep it really simple. I've got the Biddy Tarot deck here, and I'm just going to pull some cards from that, get the general message, and then we'll close out with some quote cards over here, the quote cards that I made myself, which you've seen if you've seen in another video from this channel probably. And that's what we're going to do. We're just going to keep it simple and hopefully quick, but I don't know. We're just going to see what comes through. So, all right, Group 1, what is it important for Group 1 to remember right now? What reminder do you want to give Group 1? Okay, we have the Sun card. Man, speaking of the sun, the like glare is so intense on this table right now. I wish there was something I could do to like make that a little bit better, but all right. We have the Sun card. We have the Wheel of Fortune. Wow, okay. Okay, Group 1. We have that one's leaping out. The Six of Swords. And we have the Queen of Cups. And I'll leave it like that. But we've got Justice on the bottom of the deck, so I'll include that as well. Okay, can you see any of these cards? Yeah, you can see them. I know the glare is something crazy, but all right, group one. So got some pretty powerful cards here. I mean, like, they're all powerful in their own way, but you know what I mean. The Sun, the Wheel of Fortune, the Six of Swords, and the Queen of Cups with Justice on the bottom. Well, with the Sun and the Wheel of Fortune, this is definitely a message around optimism, around joy, around things turning out in your favor. And I feel like if this is a reminder that you're receiving right now, maybe for some of you, you've been struggling to kind of connect with your optimistic side. Maybe you've been hesitant to feel optimistic right now. Maybe for some of you, you have, maybe even a few things have happened that have even seemed counter to what you wanted to happen in some circumstance in your life. And so you're feeling a little put out, a little down on yourself. And for others of you, there might not even be anything in particular. You might have just been feeling down in general. And for others, in a more like broad sort of cultural, social sense, you might be feeling a little bit like a little bit drained and a little bit scared of what's going on politically or generally in the world around you. You know, there's a whole lot of different things that could be going on here if you're needing a little bit of a reminder or a pick-me-up, which is what this feels like. And then for others of you, you might just be going strong with your optimism, and this is like a reminder to like keep going, and like, yes, it's like totally fine to feel optimistic and to feel lucky and to move with that energy. Like, you're on the right track, you're headed in the right direction, you're headed in a more positive direction. But yes, this message is really a reminder to remain positive, to have an optimistic view on the future and on where you're headed. And there's a few different things that could be going on here. First of all, aside from what I mentioned about like some of you just needing that reminder because it's like hard for you to keep your head up right now, this is saying it's okay. Like whatever you're feeling right now is okay. If you're getting this reminder at this time, it's a reminder to take the steps that you know that you can take to help yourself start to feel better, right? So for those of you who are just not feeling this optimism at this moment, this doesn't mean that you have to like flip a switch and all of a sudden just be like, oh, everything's fine. Because sometimes it just really doesn't work that way for us, right? Like as humans, we're not all able to just like flip that switch on a dime, you know? Sometimes it is that easy if you're not that deep in the, you know, depression hole, right? Sometimes you catch yourself and you're able to steer yourself in a different direction. But sometimes you're like, the momentum's been dragging me down for a little while. I'm going to need some more time to climb back out, right? But this tells me that there are definitely things that you can do, that you can be doing to help improve your outlook at this time, if necessary. And some of those things would just involve whatever it is that you know you need to do to take care of yourself. Like some people might need the reminder that if they're feeling down, sometimes it is a matter of your body literally needs something, right? Like sometimes we can mistake the cues from our body that tell us, hey, you need rest, or you need hunger, you need food, you need water, you know. Sometimes we don't realize that those are the cues that our body is giving us, and we just think, oh, I feel off, but I don't know why, you know what I mean? And we might not realize that that's just our body being like, yeah, you actually just need to take care of me, right? So for anyone who's like, ugh, like I'm just feeling so down, have you been eating enough? Have you been sleeping enough? Have you been taking care of like your physical activity in whatever way works for you, you know, going for walks, going outside. For a lot of us, this might be about getting a little bit of vitamin D. I feel a little bit called out, not gonna lie. I'm one who likes to go out for walks and get out regularly if I can, but during the winter months, I definitely neglect that a bit. So, yeah, some of us might need some sun. But also, have you been engaging in things that actively bring you down, right? Like getting stuck in social media loops, doom scrolling, all of that good stuff, right? It's not rocket science when we look at like our lives on a zoomed out level, you know, we look at the big picture of what we've been actually participating in, and we see, okay, well, yeah, if I'm like spending, you know, 5 hours a day like listening to people or watching people talk about how the world is ending and how everything sucks, well, yeah, I'm gonna feel pretty bad about that. Right? Like, it's not rocket science to figure out why you feel down. And that's not to judge you, you know, if that is the case, or if you've been engaging with things that you know just get you down, that don't really help you move forward. Because this is the thing, is like, there's a positive momentum here, that no matter if you've been having a little bit of a backslide or not, you're still on that momentum. You're still on that path. You're still heading in a good direction. It's not something where you need to be like, oh no, I'm messing myself up, or no. And in fact, I think part of getting out of like the part of getting into the more optimistic mindset is allowing yourself to have those moments without panicking about it, right? Like, allowing yourself to have those days, to have times where you engage with things where you're like, oh, like, you know, this isn't really the most optimistic thing, without having to tie your like entire life success or journey on it, right? Like, you know what I mean? I hope that's making sense. Like, because sometimes we can get really caught up in the minutia of like, am I taking good care of myself? And if I'm not doing everything perfectly, then my life is going to go off the rails, or something like that. You know, that might be an energy that you're familiar with. And it, you also don't have to get that like down in the details, right? Like, you don't have to get that caught up in, oh, is every single second of my day like going towards something that is fully enriching to me, you know? Like, because from that kind of energy, that's stressful, right? So it's really more about zooming out and seeing that you're still on a positive trajectory. And in fact, it's kind of like being in general in a good place in life, being in general headed in a positive direction, and maybe sometimes getting distracted by things that aren't yours to pick up and hold on to, or getting distracted by other people's stuff that, while if it's people in your life who are important to you, might affect you, it's also not your stuff to carry around. It's not your stuff to take into everything that you do, right? That kind of thing. And including stuff that's happening in the world, right? It's being able to be an active participant in your community and in the world in the way that you want to be, being able to support the kinds of causes or voices or life's, what's the word that's trying to come through here? Support the kind of like future that you want for society, for yourself, for, you know, future generations, like supporting that and living your life in a way that supports that, while also knowing that the doom and gloom and the fear and all of those things that can be easy to get bogged down in aren't things that you need to like hold on to in every second of the day. It's okay to let that go. It's not going to, like, you not worrying about something that you can't actually take immediate action on in the present. Like, you letting that go, you not looking at it every second of the day isn't going to make that thing get worse. Like, I know there can be, I've definitely seen the rhetoric of, like, you need to be paying attention, right? You need to always, like, be paying attention to what's going on and, like, be on top of everything and, like, you know, and I get where that's coming from, right? Wanting to be informed, wanting to be compassionate and aware of the lives of the people around us, wanting to be community-minded, right? Wanting to be able to connect with the world and make it a better place for ourselves and for everyone else. And it can be, but it's this hypervigilance, right? It's this always being in an elevated state of fear that doesn't actually help anyone take any action or anyone actually create like a world that's more joyful, more loving. The example that's coming through to me is, if you've ever seen Frieren Beyond Journey's End, it's an anime. or manga. You might have read the manga as well. But if you haven't, it's about Frieren is like she's an elf mage. It's kind of almost like, what if, we followed the elf in your D&D party after all the members of like the original party die after the big battle. Like, what's she up to? Because she lives for so much longer than all the rest of the party members, like the human and the dwarf and all that. And it's really about how many ages she's been alive and how long it's taken her to sort of realize certain things about humanity, about life, because of her longevity, and how she's never in a rush for anything. And it's about that unique perspective, and it's also about her being changed by these people that she knew for a very short time in her life, being changed by the events of her long life, being also just captivated by magic itself because she is a magical practitioner, and being someone who has the capabilities to defeat the great demon king when the cause arises, but is also not driven by the desire to defeat the demon king, right? What she's actually driven by is curiosity and love of magic, and she is most like she travels around in search of new magic spells to learn that are unique and weird, and sometimes in some instances seem useless, but also are often connected with spells that remind her of her friends, remind her of people that she's met along her way. For example, she spends a lot of time searching for a spell to make grapes sour, and you're like, why would you want that? And the character even questions her. And then in a later scene, like, you get a flashback to when she's traveling with her party, when they were going to defeat the Demon King, and they're at a tavern, and one of the members of the party mentions that their favorite food is sour grapes. And so you know that the reason that she's so excited about finding that spell is because it reminds her of her friend who loves sour grapes, and it was a way for her to make grapes sour for him, right? And that's just so sweet and so cute. But she's also very powerful, and when the time comes, she is able to help them defeat the Demon King, and like would be able to do so again if the need arises. And that's the point, is like there's another elf mage, and then her like elven like magical tutor who's like a human, so she passed away a long time ago, but we see a flashback with her speaking to like the top elven mage in the land, and they're talking about how Frieren is the one who needs to be she's the only one who can defeat the Demon King, because even if she is not powerful in the same way that those two are, if she doesn't have the same amount of experience, it's less about her experience. She's very powerful, but it's less about her experience and more about her attitude, right? Because Frieren doesn't live for the fight. She doesn't live for the battle of it all. She lives for the beautiful small moments. She lives for the present. She lives for the curiosity and the joy of magic. She lives for her friends. And that is the most important thing of all, because she knows how to live in a world where the fight is over. She would know how to live her life if there was no one to fight. And that, to me, was so powerful, because it's this idea that Frieren would defeat the Demon King because she wants to live in a peaceful world, but not because she loves the fighting, right? And some people are in the fight because they love the fight. But some people are only in the fight because it will allow them to live their life in the way that they want to live it. And so while you're in the process of fighting the good fight, if there are things that you are fighting for in this life, you also have to be able to live in the world already as you want it to be, right? So live alongside that joy, that curiosity, that optimism. Learn to live your life in the moments when you're not fighting as if you've already won that fight, right? Like, live in the world that you want. Live in the world as you want it to be. Live in the world as you want it to be. Do you want a life that is full of open-mindedness and curiosity and creativity and connection and joy and wonder and innovation and people working together to create really cool things and just exploring and peacefulness? These are just all the words that are coming through, so I'm assuming that they speak to you, but you can come up with any number of your own words, like, experiment with it, right? And and bring that into your everyday life, right? Don't make everything about the fight. Another movie's coming to mind, Pride 2014, where one of the characters says to another character, don't give everything to the fight, save some for home. And it's specifically about like the fight for gay rights, the fight for LGBTQ rights. And this was a movie that was set in England, in Great Britain, in the 80s, when Thatcher was the prime minister. She was the prime minister, I think. And the miners were going on strike because she was treating them all badly, basically. And so, like, a group of gay activists and the miners, like, unions and everything, banded together because they were both being mistreated by the government, by the police, by everyone. So they banded together to help forward the cause, and actually were quite successful. And there's like a movie about it, right? And the point is, there are characters who are invested to varying degrees in the cause, but there's one character in particular who is the ringleader of all of this, and he is reminded by another character that there's more to life than just the fight, right? There is actually enjoying life itself. Like, what are you fighting for, right? Be in that, live in that, because the fight may or may not end in the way that you wanted to in your lifetime. So you want to have spent your lifetime also living the life that you were fighting for, right? In any way that you can. So not putting that off into the far future, not putting that off until after things are perfect, after things are exactly the way that you want them to be, bringing that into now, right now. And with the Six of Swords, moving towards the Queen of Cups, you really are on your way there. You really are on your way there. And I've used activism as the example here. Of course, this can apply even if your main cause right now is more about like a personal endeavor, like a business you're creating or a relationship you're creating or whatever it is that you're moving towards, because the idea is like bringing that future you right into the now and living it like it is now, instead of putting it off and yearning for it and like putting your nose to the grindstone in the present so that you can like live a beautiful future that never really comes because you don't know how to actually live it. You know what I mean? Like learning how to live that now. And I feel like this reminder is nudging you more into that present moment, more into that future, joyful, happy, perfect world that you imagine now, because you're already on the path to creating that for yourself. You're already on your way there with the Six of Swords. You're moving, you're progressing. This is a reminder that you are moving, that you are creating this life for yourself and for the world right now. The Queen of Cups as well, to me, is emotional, like, awareness, compassion, wisdom, because wisdom comes from emotion, right? Being able to engage with it in a meaningful and deep way, right? Not shying away from your emotion, not bottling up your emotion, but acknowledging it. I mean, the Queen of Cups also does have a like top on her, like a cap on her cup. So a lid, that's the word I was looking for, a lid. So I don't see that as her bottling up her emotions, but I do see it as her, keeping them like consciously. She's not one who will let her emotions boil over and overflow. She is able to, she's looking at her cup, so she knows they're there. She knows what's going on with herself. She's self-aware in that way. She doesn't let them boil over or bubble over, not from suppression. I don't see the Queen of Cups as a generally suppressive energy, depending on, the context that it's in. But she's compassionate with them. She's aware of them. But she also doesn't let them get carried away, right? She doesn't get carried away in her emotion. She works with them. She knows how to use them to her best advantage, but she doesn't use them willy-nilly, you know what I mean? She doesn't let them run amok. And with the Justice card, definitely there's scales balancing out, but justice here is another thing that was just indicating to me that I think a lot of you are in the fight for justice in some way, or at least hoping for justice in some way in the world. And this is a reminder of how we create that. And a reminder of characters that, yes, might be fictional, but I felt embodied a lot of the principle that's coming through here about being someone who isn't just fighting to fight, but who knows how to actually live in a world where there's nothing to fight, and who can live that now and not be constantly in the fight. Because there's also the breaking of cycles, right? The cycle of violence, right? Tit for tat. You do this to me, I do that to you, right? I feel like you're someone who doesn't really want to live in that world where you're constantly keeping score. It's not about that to you. It is about wanting a peaceful, better world for everyone, and that's the reality that you want to create. So again, take it from these characters who can fight the good fight when they need to, who do care a lot, who do have a lot of idealistic dreams and hopes for the world, who do care about their friends, about their communities, about the people being treated fairly, and who also learn or know or recognize the importance of living in that world now as much as you can, right? And not continually putting it off into the future. Okay. I think that's all we're going to get from the cards, and it's already longer than I was going to make it, but it's okay. We're going to just get a quote card or two to close it out to see if there's anything else that you need to be reminded of at this time. And as I say this, like, some of you might be like, yes, got it. This makes sense. This is the reminder I needed right now to keep going, and to be encouraged that you are and the world is, even if you can't see it, because I know sometimes it's real hard to see, even if you can't see it. It's there, right? There's a lot of faith that's involved in that. Some of you are like, cool, I'm down with it. Others of you, it might take some time for you to find your way back to this kind of mindset, but it's just like a reminder that it's possible, right? And a reminder that you can take steps now in your present to bring it about. So let's see, we've got this card, and then I'm going to shuffle up. There's so many quote cards, so I split them into 2 decks for this, and I'm just shuffling up both to see if anything else wants to come out here. Okay, anything else? Okay, 2 black and white cards. That's very interesting, because I've got cards with all different kinds of drawings. So we've got this one first. Hope you can see it. And it says, "Nothing good is a miracle, nothing lovely is a dream," from Illusions by Richard Bach. Well, that makes sense. And we have this one here with, "Once the mind has seen through all fear and all hope, it finds peace within itself in a state of awareness beyond thought," from The Wisdom of Insecurity by Alan Watts. Well, the book Illusions and the book The Wisdom of Insecurity might speak to you right now if you haven't read them, or for some of you, maybe you have read them and you need a little refresher on what they're about, and so rereading them again might bring you some new insights that you didn't have before. I find that a lot. I love rereading. I'm a rereader, big rereader, because it's so fascinating to come back to a text and have it been years, or even just a year sometimes, and to get something new out of it, to see it in a new way, to have a new angle on it, and to realize that you've grown and changed and you see things differently now. And then, like, it's a really cool way to experience that. And it's also cool because you pick up on things you didn't pick up on before. But yeah, to speak to the actual quotes themselves, "Nothing good is a miracle, nothing lovely is a dream," from Illusions by Richard Bach. That's believing in miracles, right? Believing in the things that seem impossible now, especially if you are someone who's really connected with the idea of justice for people, of justice for the world, of making the world a better place, or even just like big dreams for yourself that are, even if you're like more focused on your personal big dreams, like I'm sure you do want a better world as well, like, just where your focus has been at more recently. But believing in miracles, believing that the things that you want, the joy that you experience is real, and you can always invite more of that in. And any desire that you have, you've been given that desire because it's possible for you, because it's something that can actually exist and happen, right? It's just a matter of having faith in yourself, having faith in it, and allowing yourself to believe in it, to move towards it. And the book Illusions by Richard Bach is about a character who is a very, like, peaceful kind of guy. It's kind of Illusions is more or less like Richard Bach is like a character within his his own book. Like, he flies his plane around like the Midwestern United States and comes into contact with a modern day kind of Jesus Buddha figure who gives him some lessons on like it ends up being kind of like lessons on manifesting, although that's not the language that's used in the book. But like lessons in like how much control we actually have over our reality and how you actually use that. And it's interesting because it's told through this like semi-fictional sort of story that's sort of also really about the main, like the guy who wrote it. But there's a lot of really good tidbits in there, like I thought. And it is about like walking away almost from the life of a messiah, in that like the person who this guy meets, who trains him, who is this kind of messiah figure, like is someone who walked away from that job, quote unquote, because taking on all of the struggles of everyone around him was getting to be too much, and people weren't able to learn for themselves the value of the things that he was teaching them. They weren't really taking it in, they weren't really taking it on, they just wanted him to solve his problems. So for some of you, if you feel overwhelmed by trying to solve all the problems of the world, it's a reminder that you don't need to do that. That's actually not your job. Like, not only is that not something that you're capable of doing in just like your little 3D human mindset, it's like literally not your job to like go out and like strong arm people into changing and to strong arm the world into changing. And I don't mean that in the way of like, oh, don't go to protests or don't like do activism. Like, I don't mean that. I mean like, don't force anything that isn't working. If you're tired, if you're stressed, if you're anxious, like doom scrolling on Twitter or whatever the fuck it's called now, or the web, isn't going to help anyone or anything. Like, it's not, And it's about being able to take a step away from being the savior for a second to learn your own power, enjoy your own life. And this is this is a reminder, so I'm assuming at some point you probably knew this, but it's easy to get wrapped up into things again because, you care about people, you care about the world, and you want to help. And there's nothing wrong with that. That is wonderful. But again, when you start to take the world onto your shoulders, that's when it can be too much. That's when it can stop you in your tracks. That's when you forget that there's a world that you actually want to live in, right? That's already in front of you, that you can bring into reality more fully if you can learn to inhabit it now. And so taking a step away doesn't mean taking a step away forever. Taking a step back, just like taking a step back from a painting helps you see the painting in a bigger, like, you could see like a bigger perspective of the painting, so then you actually see what details need to be shifted and what's actually good to go. It's like taking a step back from all that will allow you to reapproach it again one day when you're ready from a new perspective that will let you see the whole picture in a much clearer view. And that day could be the day after tomorrow when you take a little break and you just take care of yourself for a day because you just needed that. Or it could be in a few months when you've gotten yourself some self-care and you're like not burned out anymore, depending on where you're at in life, right? You know what I mean? But it's also just like learning how to make miracles come true in your own life for you helps you do that for other people, helps you be there for other people. But you just need to take a step back sometimes and recenter yourself and remember that and remember your own power. And that's really what this is about. And of course, with the wisdom of insecurity, once the mind has seen through all fear and all hope, it finds peace within itself in a state of awareness beyond thought. It's, fear being... And fear and hope being like future projections, right? Even hope is important and good, but getting too caught up in the hope of it, again, puts that future in the future, puts that goodness in the future, just as much as fear is anticipation of a badness in the future, right? And so this is really about recentering in the present, really about bringing that peace into the present, really about recognizing when you are safe in the present moment and inviting yourself to feel that safety, to feel that peace now, to find that awareness beyond thought where you're not perpetually creating a future for yourself without actually creating the present. You know what I mean? So I think that's it. A lot of good stuff today, though. I hope that was a welcome reminder. I hope that was a useful reminder. Please subscribe, comment. I would love to hear how this resonated with you and what you feel about this, any insights or inspirations or intuitions you got during this reading. If you are interested in personal reading, we do offer those on our website, sunflowerphilosophy.com, as well as we do hypnosis, and my mom does human design readings. So if you are interested in any of those services, check that out in the link in the description. And I hope you have a wonderful life. I will see you in another reading again sometime very soon. Bye! Hi Group 2, if you've selected the fruit roll-ups, then you're in the right place, and this is your reading, which is about a reminder from Spirit, or whomever you want to connect with, that you could just use right now, right? And it could be anything. We're just gonna leave it pretty open, as we always do. I'm going to just pull some cards from the Biddy Tarot deck, and then I'll close with some quote cards. I have some handmade cards with quotes on them that I use in a lot of my readings, so we'll close out with that. And we're just gonna get right into it. So for Group 2, what is a reminder that they could use right now? What does Group 2 need to be reminded of at this time? What are we reminding Group 2 about? What is Group 2's reminder? Group 2. Group 2, my fruit roll-ups group. Okay. All right, Group 2. So we have the Hierophant and the Page of Cups. We have the Five of Cups, and we have the Lovers. Let's see, I didn't cover up the Sun card because like these cards don't really have like body parts on them, and one time I was able to get away with it, so I feel like I won't cover up these cards, and then we'll see. And then the bottom of the deck we have the Five of Pentacles. So, all right. Group 2, what do you need to be reminded of? The Hierophant, the Page of Cups, the Five of Cups, the Lovers, the Five of Pentacles. Well, we've got two fives here. We've got the Cups and the Pentacles. Fives aren't always the easiest energy in the deck, but they are the energies of change. Oh, and we have the Hierophant, also a 5. Hierophant, the Lovers, 5 and 6. Interesting. Okay, well, we've got 3 5s here, so there's definitely something related to change. And I did actually get that first message with the Hierophant and the Page of Cups coming out together, because I see the Hierophant as a very, like, well, it can be seen in many different ways. In this context, I was getting like a very traditional pathway, kind of like a very traditional structure, doing something by the book. I just heard even by the book could be like a manual or a religious book or like, I don't know, a law book even maybe. I know that's not the Justice card, but still. And Page of Cups to me is a much more surprising energy, you know, with that fish popping out of the cup. It's like often a pleasant surprise or an interesting or fun surprise. There's also a lot of curiosity in that card and spontaneity. I see the Page of Cups as relatively spontaneous. And so I noticed with the Hierophant coming out, so the Hierophant also is like very learned, educational, is someone who, you know, is top in their field, whereas the Page of Cups is a much more like free-spirited kind of energy, yeah. So I almost see these two in opposition to each other coming out together. And this could be, for some of you, okay, so there could be a very specific message for some of you. You might be being reminded right now that, I just heard the best is still ahead of you. Because I was getting this feeling that some of you have maybe gotten just a little caught up recently in dwelling on some past disappointments or things that didn't work out in your life. And now it could be that there's something that happened recently that sort of sent you spiraling a little bit, like on rumination of things that didn't work out. Maybe for some of you, you experienced a little bit of a surprise or something that just sort of like knocked you down in terms of your confidence a little bit, maybe set you back a little bit in terms of progress you had thought you had made on getting over something from the past. And this is a reminder, basically, first of all, letting you know that that's what's happening, right? Because sometimes we get caught up in those things and we forget that we don't have to live there, you know what I mean? So it's a reminder that you might, without even noticing, have gotten a little bit stuck in a more pessimistic mindset because something might have triggered it, right? Something might have happened that triggered it, or you might even be battling with some old habits, right? In terms of pessimistic thinking, in terms of not believing in yourself, in terms of, for some of you, maybe like a path that you thought was set in stone in the past didn't work out, and you're having trouble believing that a new path will open up for you, or that a new path will work out for you, because the old one didn't. And so it's kind of like expecting the worst out of what didn't work out because of what didn't work out, but not seeing how the best is yet to come. Because I keep hearing, like, the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. And it's really just a matter of honestly turning around and looking at, like, I feel, okay, this could specifically be related to romantic relationships because we do have the lovers out here. And I was just seeing the Five of Cups as someone looking at, like, spilled cups, like, almost like, okay, this doesn't have to be your exact scenario, but just use this example as a metaphor. This person, like, imagine these 5 cups here. I mean, these 3 cups that the person is looking at on the 5 of Cups represents exes. So it's like this person looking at their past relationship, looking at exes, and being really disappointed about how things turned out, you know? Like, man, that sucks. Like, why doesn't this ever work out? But meanwhile, there's these 2 cups right behind him, or them, and if they just turned around and saw those 2 cups, it's literally just right there. Like, the happiness that they're looking for, like the new opportunities that they're looking for are right there. They just have to turn away from the old cups and look at the new cups. And also being 2 cups behind the 5 of Cups and the Lover's card being right here, it's like almost like turning around and finding the 2 of Cups. Ooh. Wow, the layers are just coming through, because also this person, I've never had this happen with the 5 of Cups card before, so this must be relevant for someone. The 5 of Cups person is like looking at the 3 of Cups, right? And if you know anything about the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot, oftentimes the 3 of Cups can symbolize friendship. It's fun and it's joyful. It's not, the 3 of Cups is generally a very positive card, but looking at the 3 cups here, it's like turning away from almost like a friendship to a 2 of Cups situation, which people often see as more romantic. And it doesn't have to be read that way, but in general, it often is. And I think in this case, that's what I was getting, is almost like turning from like a friends to a lovers situation. So fascinating. So for some of you, it might be a reminder that, like for some of you, it might be like being afraid of like losing a friendship if you change the situation, or like you move it to a romantic place, and like almost like fear of what you'd be losing without being able to see what you could be gaining by like taking that chance, you know what I mean? Right? Like the fear of, and again, if this is not your specific scenario, because this is very specific, it could totally be a metaphor for whatever situations are going on in your life, right? But like the idea of being afraid of ruining a good friendship by turning it into a really fulfilling romantic relationship. But the thing is, like, with the Lover's card here, there's a lot of really positive potential. And it feels like this is a reminder not to let like a past situation that didn't work out dictate what can and can't work out for you in the present and in the future. Right? It's like just literally turning away from that and not like giving that past disappointment any more weight, and turning it back towards, but what if, like instead of, but what if, like, but what if this works out? What if this is actually great? What if, and being open to surprises, right? Because I almost feel like the Hierophant and the Page of Cups here is like the dichotomy of like a really settled traditional path, like a path where you know all the doctrines and you follow them by the book. And then the Page of Cups, again, that's more spontaneous. The more spontaneity and surprises in your life, sometimes, you know, that might be a little nerve-wracking, right? But being open, especially with the page isn't even the tower, right? So I almost see the page and the tower sometimes as similar in that, like, the page to me is like a smaller, gentler surprise, and the tower is like a bigger, more shocking prize and a surprise, and they can be seen as positive or negative depending on, like, circumstances and context and your own personal interpretation of them. But, like, to me in this case, it's like spontaneity. It's like a gentle openness to surprise, to the twists and turns of life. It's going with the flow kind of energy. And for some of you, you might struggle with that. Like, you might like to know, like, you might like to have the path all laid out for you, but this adventure might demand more go with the flow energy, because in order to create something new in the, like, it's almost like you might be using the past as your, like, doctrine going forward. But if you want to create something new in your life, you have to expand your idea of what's actually possible. You have to step outside the traditional path that you've been taking. You have to step outside the path that you've laid out for yourself based on past experiences, right? You might be used to building rules for yourself around the past, but opening up to this new path calls for breaking some of those rules. It calls for letting some of those rules go. It calls for being like, okay, maybe we don't need to identify with this anymore. Like, maybe for a time that served us because we were protecting ourselves because of these disappointments, but now we've grown and we're at a point where we're ready to let that go. It's like taking the training wheels off of a bike, right? You put some training wheels on there because you fell a couple times and you got scared, and now you're like, oh wait, I'm ready to try it again, like with the big boy bike. So that might be a relevant metaphor for some people, maybe literally. But with the Lovers here, like, yeah, there's also a message I just got because my eye was drawn to the angel above the Lovers. That whatever, like, if there is a specific, like, romantic connection happening, for example, if you believe in this and are open to it, the idea that the relationship is protected, that your romantic life is protected, that you're safe to move ahead, is a message that wants to come through. It's a reminder that you can call on protection and help as well, if that will help you feel stronger to move forward in confidence and move forward towards a newer path that might feel scary. Also with the Five of Pentacles here, just seeing how, like, the Lovers card and this card is, like, next to each other, there's maybe a fear, if this is specifically about moving forward with another person, that you will both be like, ooh, yo, okay. I just got the message that, like, someone might be afraid. Ooh, okay. How do I want to say this? Someone here might be afraid that of bringing another person into their situation, almost like either, like, feeling like, it's almost like feeling like, I don't want to drag someone else down with me, worrying that maybe they would be a drag on someone else's life, or, like, they're not ready to bring someone else into their life, feeling like that they don't have enough, or they couldn't give enough, or, like, you and another person would both be stuck out in the cold together. Like, you wouldn't be able to make it together. You wouldn't have enough to support you. Or even just emotionally feeling like you're worried that you would drag someone else down or hold someone else back. Interesting. But being the Five of Pentacles and also, like, drawing the parallels to the Lovers card, it's like the Lovers here and the two figures on the Five of Pentacles card are synonymous to me, and so is the angel and the window in the background with the Five Pentacles, because it's more clear in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, I think, but this is meant to kind of be like almost like a stained glass window, like a church window, and it's sort of implying that, like, these people are seeking refuge in the church, like, or they maybe haven't turned around to see that there is refuge, there is an opportunity. Like, it's symbolic of, like, the help that is available to you, the support that is available to you. So it's almost like, again, that reminder that taking a leap of faith, like, don't forget to turn around and see that there is support behind you, that there are options and opportunities and things that can help you move forward, right? You don't actually, like, it's not that any of the fears or worries you might have around moving forward in a situation are invalid or completely unfounded, in that, like, if you're having those fears, it's obviously important to address them if you're not able to just let them go, right? But that doesn't mean that there's not options and opportunities to help support you through whatever changes you're going through, because whether it's like an actual relationship or not, or whether it's like you and another person maybe working together, I'm not sure. It's like there is support behind you. Like it's almost like if you were afraid of like moving forward in a relationship with someone because you were afraid of dragging them down, say like mentally or emotionally. It's like, well, there might be like counseling available that can help you through the transition. There might be self-care methods and things that you can do to support yourself and take care of yourself. And also it might be useful to have two people supporting each other through this process, because it's maybe you have an experience in the past of mutual support not being possible. Maybe like you've had uneven or unequal relationships, or you've witnessed them in your life, and that hasn't worked out before. But that doesn't mean that it can't work out in the future. Everyone's different, all dynamics are different, and there could be the potential for two people to mutually support each other through difficult times and through good times, right? That kind of thing. And so being open to that possibility, being open to also the idea that maybe there is monetary or financial support behind you and another person, whether in a relationship or like a business opportunity or something, again, this could be any kind of situation. But the idea like there is support behind you, and universal spiritual support as well. If that is something that you lean on and you know how to ask for, that is available for you. And so in a way, like the first reading was kind of about like optimism as well. This one is like, I feel like more specifically targeted. Like might be a specific area of life or situation that you're dealing with some pessimism about and fear about, and maybe, and it's not tremendous either. Like this 5 of Cups and this 5 of Pentacles, like to me, it's like fears that could seem big, like, right? They could seem really big to you. I don't want to like, it's going to depend. Like for some of you, this is like a small hump that you need to get over. For others of you, this might be a bit deeper. But I feel like it is something that actually might not be as, like, I heard the word real. It might not be as real as it seems. As in, you might be making up scenarios that literally just have not happened or don't have any founding in like what's actually happened in real life, but like is part of your fear, right? And recognizing what's reality and what's just fear, what's reality and what's just your old presumptions and assumptions coming up from things that have happened in your past, right? And that's an important part of this journey as well. But, the 5 of Cups to me, it's really about perspective. It's all about perspective. So it's something that's more mental and emotional rather than physical. Whereas the 5 of Pentacles is more like a physical hurdle in the physical realm. So that might be something that like, interesting. Yeah. It might be like a concern. It's like, I feel like this 5 of Cups is about concerns, again, like that of projecting the past and past disappointments into the future. The 5 of Pentacles is concerned about like, and this is like about your emotional health and like your like mental health, even though like we don't have any swords out here, I feel like is relevant here as well, emotional mental health. And that being a barrier to moving forward in whatever you're moving forward in. The 5 of Pentacles is a fear of like actual physical consequences of like being left out in the cold, of like, being alone, or just like not being able to make ends meet, maybe physically like not being able to support, not having enough. But again, it'll depend, like it depends on your situation. Like to me, these people are people who go through stuff together through thick and through thin. And again, there's that promise of support in the background, right? There's that idea that if you just turn around, it's right there for you. You just have to take it. You just have to be open to the opportunity. And you might not be able to see it in the mindset of disappointment, but it is there for you. And so all it is you being able to open up to surprises like this Page of Cups, go with the flow and trust a bit more. Just like nudge the door of optimism, nudge the door of like, well, we'll see, I guess. Nudge the door, like nudge that door open just a touch, just like a, okay, we'll see, I guess. Okay, maybe I'll take a little leap of faith. Okay, maybe I'll like not dwell on this for right now, and maybe I'll just stop thinking about it in these terms for this moment, and maybe we'll see what happens, right? And just like nudge the door open just a tad, and it's almost like this support will come in, I feel like. this really does come down to, I feel like, a lot of having faith in the unseen, having faith in the possibilities that have not come across your eye line yet. Okay, sure. Do we want to put it like that? Yeah. And like, yeah, being open to things being different than they were before. And also, like, letting yourself, like, if you are, like, you know, letting yourself feel, like, okay, like, say this was a scenario of, like, moving from a friendship to a romantic relationship. Like, there might be things that are different about the relationship, so you can, you know, grieve those differences. You can be afraid of leaving them behind. You can grieve the relationships that you've lost in the past, if that's what's happening. You can grieve whatever disappointments have occurred that, you know, have made you feel cautious or feel like you need to plan out your path and you can't really go with the flow, right? You can grieve all those things. That is part of the process, right? It's just not getting stuck staring at them. You know what I mean? So now we're going to, I have a couple piles of code cards here. We're going to shuffle them up and we're going to get anything else that wants to come through for this group. Okay. Wow. Oh, okay. That makes sense. And we'll talk about it in a minute. These all have pictures that I drew or created on the front, and then they have quotes on the back. All right, and what else for group 2? Yeah, lots of 5s, though. This is definitely around change. Like, it's around some kind of change that's happening or that you want to make in your life. Okay, that was fast. Wow, these have been really actually, like, very straightforward today, I feel like. The quote cards, I mean, like, they don't always come out that easy. So this is nice. So first we have this card, and I want to point something out here. It's like a kind of like a little stick figure, if you can see, that's like leaking from his eyes or their eyes. And if you notice, they're holding like their chest area that's a little bit cracked. Something someone pointed out to me when I had drawn this little figure is that this person is like broken, but they don't have a mouth, so they can't communicate it. And that almost made me cry a little bit. I was thinking about it. I was like, I didn't even think about that when I drew him like that. I was just kind of drawing my feelings at a moment. But that might be something that you can relate to. Like, there might be some fears and disappointments and feelings that you're dealing with that they could be interfering with your ability to go with the flow because they haven't been processed yet, because you haven't known how to voice them or speak on them. And this is a reminder that getting that out, whether you're journaling, whether you're speaking to a professional, whether you're speaking to a confidant, a friend, a family member, someone, getting that out of your system, speaking those words and setting them onto a page even, is something that can help you release that energy. That is something that's so valuable because so often we are suppressing things that we're so afraid to voice because we're afraid that if we voice them, we make them more real. But in actuality, by suppressing them and resisting those things, but keeping them, like holding them to our chest, holding them in, it is almost making that more real to us than it would to just speak it, to get it out, to let it go. I was telling my mom the other day, like once I learned to actually just journal and just like write things down and just be completely honest and say things that like I was too afraid or ashamed to say, and just like let it go. Like I said, you know, if someone went back and read my old journals, they might be like, what? Like you thought that? But to me, I don't even remember writing that. Like I don't even remember being the person who wrote that down, because I wrote it down and now it's just not my reality anymore. Like I got it out of my system, right? Like I'm free from it, right? It's not my present anymore. And that's what journaling does for me. And so just like, that's why like things like talk therapy, well, some people like it, some people don't. And like, there's all different kinds of methods and therapists and different things work for different people. But talking to someone just in general, like saying things that you haven't been able to say before can be really therapeutic because you are just getting that out of you, right? You're just releasing it when it's not settling in your body and in your brain and just sitting there and not going anywhere. It can't stick around. It has to move out of you, right? And so I think you just might have some things that you need to release here, and this is a reminder to let that go, right? And for some of you, like this is a reminder because you've had this practice and you've just maybe like gotten out of it. You maybe forgot that like, oh yeah, I just need to release some things. That's why like this is all getting me bogged down right now. And for others of you, it could be a reminder that's like a little bit more it might still be newer to you. Maybe it's like a past life reminder. Like maybe you knew it once in a past life, but you haven't really come back around to it in this one. You know what I mean? But regardless, that's what I'm feeling here. Is like there's some things that just need to move out of the system, and then you'll have the perspective where you can actually look at the 2 cups behind you. You'll have the perspective where you can look at the protection and the guidance and the support that's available to you, right? Once that energy moves out of the way, once that disappointment and grief moves out of the way. So let's see what the quote says. It would be good to be full of holes, she says. Then all the things you can't express would maybe just flow out. And this is from Winter by Ali Smith. And yes, exactly, right? Sometimes it's like you can tell that you have something you need to get out. You need something to get something off your chest. You need to release something. It's like building up inside you, but it can be hard to express it, right? Art, another great way to do something like that. Like to draw your feelings and just like scribble or scratch something into like a piece of paper, or just paint something or glue stuff or rip paper. Art therapy, studied it briefly, was great. Definitely a thing that I would love to even just do on a non-therapeutic basis, because even the process in and of itself is therapeutic, whether you are in a therapy setting or not. For me, it's something that has really helped get out feelings that if you can't express it with words, if you can't journal it down or say it out loud to someone because you don't even know what you want to say, start with just scribbling on a piece of paper. Start with just like drawing it out. And it doesn't have to be like a drawing. It can just be like lines on a page. It can be different mediums. It can be experiment with it, right? But just get it out of you somehow, And we also have this card. So immediately the word self-care came to me, definitely. And we have another cracking heart here. So like, yeah, there's definitely some kind of like, I don't know, there's some kind of gook, like clogging up your heart area maybe. And I don't mean that literally, like I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical professional. I'm talking more about emotional energy. If there's any kind of other symptoms you're experiencing, definitely go check that out with a medical professional. But I mean like emotionally. I mean like there's like a heartbreak and disappointment and things, and you just need to like be gentle with yourself right now. And this says, I give him the truth. I don't ask for his, I give him mine. The shames, the fears, the desires. I have made myself vulnerable to him. I've put my soul into his hands, and he has cherished it. From A Seditious Affair by K.J. Charles. Yes. Oh, okay. A few things with that. First of all, yes, we're just talking about releasing things, getting things out, speaking things. Maybe for some of you, there is someone that you want to open up to, want to confide in. This is a reminder that it's safe to do that as long as you feel safe with that person, right? But also that sometimes like with journaling or just doing art for yourself, or even just like admitting things to yourself privately, like you can be the one who cherishes you, right? You can be that person for yourself if you're not ready to do that with someone else, but like that's that first step, right? And if you do have someone that you can do that with, or if you can write that in a journal, or you can go to a therapist or a professional that you trust and talk it out, like this might just be what you need to do right now, right? Like you need to get it out of your system. This is a reminder to get that shit out of your system. This is a reminder to that there are actual practices that can help you let go of things, right? And it doesn't have to happen all in one go. I think for some of you, this quick reminder is just like oh, right, journaling, that'll help me feel better. Oh, right, you know what, maybe I can talk to my friends about this. Like, and for others of you, this is like a bigger step because it might not be something that you're used to doing. But, just taking that first step, listen, I've been that person who's like, I don't want to like write this down. Like, oh my God, like I could never admit that. And then now I'm just like, don't care. It gets easier. It really, really does. It just takes that first step. And that Page of Cups to me is like opening that door to surprise. It's opening that door to let things flow out and being surprised about the results. So this is a reminder that while it might feel difficult to start that process, you will likely be very surprised at the results of that process. It will open up a door for you in a way that you couldn't have predicted with the mindset that you were in. But once you made the choice to symbolically let it go by writing it down or whatever you do to let it go, whoever you choose to be vulnerable with, however you choose to express your vulnerability, however you choose to set the intention to let something go, it will just let this all out, open the doors, and help you release so that whatever the best move is for you in whatever situation that you're hoping to move forward in will reveal itself to you, you just might have some of these things to let go of. That's like your next step in this process. And it's a reminder that that's an important step. The releasing is what allows you to have the space to bring in the new, right? So you got to release the old. And yes, emotion and energy counts. Releasing that old energy, that old mentality, all of that stuff, letting that go. Create space for the new. Just like if you were in the centering exercise, we did that. We did like a little bit of like a releasing old energy and then bringing in like some new earthly energy, like that kind of vibe. Cool. Yeah. So this has been your reminder. And one last thing with this quote here from A Seditious Affair is sometimes, for some of you, this is you might need this little reminder as well. You might be a little bit like, you might project or put your issues into someone else's hands, or rely on someone else to take care of their, like, especially if this has to do with any kind of relationship, be like, oh, is that person taking care of their issues? But what about their issues, right? And you might focus more on like their stuff than yours, because it's easier to focus on like another person than yourself. And this is your reminder to reel it in, to be the one who offers your truth, right? Forget about what someone else's truth is for a minute. What is yours, and can you speak that? Can you be generous with that? Can you be vulnerable with that, and let that other person decide what that means for them, and be, there for themselves and be there for you in their own way. But, focus on you first. You're the one that you can actually control. You're the one that you can actually focus on. And someone else might be really happy or really touched to hear your truth and your vulnerability and to share in that with you, right? And, that can open up the relationship in a whole new way as well if there's another person involved here. So keep that in mind. But I believe that's it. So thank you so much for joining me. If you are interested in personal reading here, then we have a link below, sunflowerphilosophy.com. We do personal tarot readings, and we also do hypnosis and human design. If you're interested, my mom does the human design readings, so sunflowerphilosophy.com, link in the description. Please like, comment, subscribe. I would love to hear how this resonated for you, and I hope it was helpful. I would love to hear any intuitions or insights that you had while listening, and have a wonderful life. I will see you in another reading again sometime very soon. Bye! Hi, Group 3. If you selected the Gushers, then you're in the right place, and this is your reading, which is a reminder from Spirit, or, whomever you want to connect with, that you need to hear right now, whether it's something that you've just recently maybe forgotten or fallen back into some old habit or whatever wants to come through. We leave it open here, as always. I'm going to start by getting some cards from the Biddy Tarot deck, and then I'm going to get some quote cards that I made myself to close it out, and we're just going to keep it simple. I would say short and simple, but that hasn't really been the case thus far. At least not as short as I would have liked it to be, but it's fine. I really enjoy doing this, so I don't mind. But let's get right into it. So I'm going to pull cards for Group 3. So Group 3, okay, wow, that right out the gate. All right. I didn't even ask what Group 3 needs to be reminded of, but I'm just going to say that, is this upright or reversed? All right, I'm going to take that in the reverse. And the 2. Okay, so we have 7 of Wands, the Tower reversed, and the 2 of Wands so far. And let's get another card. That's too many cards, man. All right, we have Temperance. This is way more cards than we had for the other groups. I'm going to take Temperance, but I'm going to reshuffle the last. I'll get one more card for you because, like, I only had four cards for the other groups. I'll get one more because a lot seem to want to come out, but I'm reshuffling the rest of those. That was ridiculous. It's too many. All right. We'll take that. King of Pentacles with the Knight of Cups on the bottom of the deck. Okay. Okay. So, 7 of Wands, the Tower reversed, 2 of Wands, Temperance, King of Pentacles, Knight of Cups on the bottom. And we have the Gushers, which I don't know why. I didn't really talk about the candies in the other groups. I just, like, use them as, like, a choice option. But with the Gushers here, I don't know, something about, like, the sensation of the Gushers, like, almost like they have, like, the, the gooey stuff on the inside, and, like, it's, like, a little bit of a surprise when you bite into it. and the tower reversed being here, which is, to me, the tower is about surprises in some way. That feels significant. Okay. So, it feels like for a lot of you, this group needs to be reminded that you are up to any challenges that come your way. With the tower reversed here, this is either something that you've gone through recently where there has been a, like, and I would say for most people, like, negative, quote unquote, like, you know, you don't have to define it like that way, but like a difficult tower moment, you know, an unexpected thing that could have been really hard. So for some of you, this is something that you've been through recently that's maybe ongoing in your life. And might be really difficult right now, right? And so this is a reminder that you are up to the challenge, that you have the strength to take on whatever is happening right now. For others of you, this could be a resistance to the potential, like anxiety over the potential, quote unquote, catastrophes or things that could happen in your life, whether in your personal life or on a global scale, right? Like a general sense of anxiety about the things that could happen, right? Even if they haven't happened yet. And for some of you, this could really be about like current events. We were getting some of that in the first group, talking about like broad current events, the state of society right now, things that are going on, the direction that things are going in, especially depending on like what country you're in right now and what all is going on with that whole thing where you live. So there could be a lot of anxiety that's founded in some stuff that's actually happening in your current political climate or like your current physical climate, right? That can make it feel like, yeah, like things are not going so great, or make you think about all the awful things that could happen. Basically, catastrophizing is the word that I hear. And I want to say that in a way that makes it clear that when I say catastrophizing, obviously, like, a lot of times the implication is like, okay, well, this is like thinking about things that couldn't really happen or aren't really happening right now, and it's like all in your head and whatnot. And it's like not necessarily that things are just in your head, right? It's not necessarily that there aren't possibilities that could occur that aren't true, but it's more like living in a state of anxiety about things like that have not happened, like apocalyptic. I really feel with the tower card here, like tower card, it's like apocalyptic thinking, you know what I mean? Like, this is the end times kind of thinking. And like, again, I don't want to be like, oh, that's unfounded. You probably have reasons to feel that way and think that way. There might be things that you're seeing that are like, hey, that looks pretty bad. Like, that doesn't really bode well for based on what I'm seeing, you know what I mean? And totally valid. I think that we've all seen some things where we're like, I don't know about that. And I don't know about the future, but we have the Two of Wands here, which to me is looking at the bigger picture. It's also like, I feel like in this card as well, it's about stepping into the unknown. It's about stepping into an unknown future. And so it's a reminder that although the catastrophizing, like, we're not, invalidating, we're not saying like, oh, you shouldn't be concerned about anything that's going on, or like, oh, don't worry about that. Like, it's totally understandable if you are. It's a reminder to not live in that future, to not live in that worst case scenario that has not happened, right? The Two of Wands here is much more about like being open to the unknown, leaving the future as an unknown, zooming out to a big picture perspective. If that helps you step back and get out of being stuck in like the day-to-day, like spiraling, right? So kind of like with group one, this came up, but if you've been like quote unquote doom scrolling on social media, if you've been really caught up in the news cycle, if you've been really caught up in, maybe for some of you, like there is literally stuff happening in your physical reality right now that makes it hard to like, if you're listening to this message right now, probably like not right now, but on a day-to-day basis, that makes it hard to turn away from certain things that feel really stressful, right? But it's about being more mindful of what kind of future you're projecting for yourself right now, what kind of future that you're projecting into, that you're bringing into your present. For some of you, you might also resonate with group one to an extent, but we're also focusing here with temperance on balance, So it's not about like denying the things that aren't working or denying the things that are difficult right now, whether on a personal or global level. It's not about denying how you feel about those things. It's not about shutting it out. It's not about shutting down the fears and ignoring them and suppressing them. With temperance, there's a balance, though. It's that give and take. It's that emotional balance as well. So for some of you on a physical level, you might feel emotionally out of balance, right? You could be going through some hormonal shifts. This is a reminder that happens, and that can sometimes influence your thoughts and feelings about things that you don't have to, like, you can take a step back, right? Like this Two of Wands to me is like taking a step back and like observing it from the bigger picture and being like, okay, like, while my fears and feelings and thoughts about a lot of these things are still valid, it's probably being exacerbated by this like physical situation I'm going through. It can also be like, I did mention this in group 1 as well, but like, are you well rested enough? Are you like eating enough? Are you able to take care of yourself, right? Are there physical needs that need to be taken care of that will help you balance yourself out emotionally? And are there ways in which you can actually take better care of yourself to help balance yourself out more? Because I feel like there's definitely like an overwhelmed feeling here. There's also, okay, for those of you who are like projecting, like worried about the future because you have future plans that you really want to put into place, like with this King of Pentacles here, it's making me feel like creating a stable, solid, secure, like physical situation, home life. Like maybe for some of you, for example, like this doesn't have to be your example, but again, metaphor for anyone's situation. Maybe for some of you, you want to create like a really stable financial situation for yourself, and maybe you want to have like a family in the future, but you're like, oh, is the world going to like hold up for that? Like, is my country going to support that future? Am I going to be able to make that happen, right? You might be really getting caught up in like, what if, like, what if I can't, like, what if I have kids, but then this happens, like, what if I have kids and then that happens and then, whatever, like, can I have kids in a world like this? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is it safe? Can I have the future that I want in a world like this? Can I have the security that I want in a world like this? Can I, like, make my life... Am I going to be okay? Are the people I love going to be okay, right? And first of all, this is a reminder. I think for a lot of you, I mean, take this if it resonates. For a lot of you, you might need the reminder that, like, you actually are this King of Pentacles right now. Like, you're actually very stable. Like, you're okay where you're at, maybe with your finances or with your living situation, like you're in a stable, secure space, and to remember that is happening now. The future is not set in stone, but what is like currently what you ground into your reality in this moment. So staying present in that reality reminds you that, like, listen, take it one day at a time, be grateful, and some might be sick of hearing this, but gratitude is really helpful if you can keep it as an ongoing practice, even through the difficult days, right? Because gratitude doesn't have to be like this far-reaching, lofty thing. It can just be like, you know what? It's really nice that I have clean water, if you have clean water. And if you don't have access to clean water, that's not right. That's one of those things in society that needs to be fixed. You should, everyone should. But the idea, like, you can just be like, oh, you know what? That breeze on my face as I stepped out of my house today, or as I stepped, the sunlight on my face felt really good. Like little things. That's a big step towards gratitude. But I feel like with the King of Pentacles, a lot of you might just need to be reminded that you're okay right now, and that's important. And for some of you, that is the future that you're looking to create, and maybe some of why you're having trouble imagining that future is because right now you feel like everything's on fire. I do feel like for most people, though, regardless of what your actual, like, current situation is, there is a lot of catastrophizing and projecting into the future of scary things that, again, have not happened yet. And with the Seven of Wands here, this is also a reminder that, like, you can handle anything that comes your way, but also, like, it can also be a sign of preemptive defensiveness. Like, you're preparing for the worst, and I'm getting, like, the words, like, you're inviting the worst case scenario into your present. And I don't mean that as in, like, oh no, you're creating the end of the world by being afraid of it. Because sometimes, I don't think that that's necessarily true. And it's not really a helpful train of thought. Oftentimes it can just make you more afraid and make you more worried about like what you're thinking about, and it doesn't always help you just like calm down, which is and de-stress, which is really the most important thing. But it's like a preemptive defensiveness that is like a hypervigilance, that this came up in group 1 as well, but like a hypervigilance about protecting against things that just haven't happened yet, that it's not okay. For some of you, it's like you actually, because I don't want it to make it sound like, preparing for the worst in every situation is like a bad thing inherently, or that like you shouldn't be prepared, or that like if you see an opportunity to help yourself feel more secure, to get ahead of something that has been brought to your attention that could become a problem down the line, take that opportunity, right? Like for some of you, maybe you are being reassured that you have set up good defenses for yourself, that you have set up a good amount of security for yourself already, and that you don't need to like overdo the anxiety. But I also feel like it's not over, like, it's like, yes, take the opportunity. Like if you get a quote unquote warning, or you get like a clue that like, hey, it might be a good idea to like, take this opportunity here, or prepare for this possibility there, because that'll help keep you safe. This thing might be coming on down the line. Like, here's how we can help protect ourselves and other people from what's happening here. Like, that's good. Like, but it's more like, it's more like the level of anxiety and fear that you are experiencing on a moment-to-moment basis, right? And is it crossing the line into paranoia? Is it crossing the line into draining your energy of and preventing you from taking steps to actually take care of yourself, right? Preventing you from taking steps to feel safer, and being aware of that, being able to balance yourself out, being able to say that, hey, if this will help me feel more secure, I can take this step. But I also don't have to be constantly watching for the next threat, right? Because I'll always find one. But there might be other things that I want to actually focus on right now. And the Knight of Cups is about, to me, like moving forward emotionally. Like I'm seeing him taking his cup and he's moving on. So there might be some things that you're ready to move on from, in terms of if there was a specific like tower moment that happened that was really difficult or stressful, and maybe for you it was a while ago, if it was in your personal life, you might be ready to move on from that. Like you've been finding your balance, you've been finding your footing, and like having something unexpected and shocking happen in your life once could make you fearful and worry of when it could happen again, and make you feel like you need to prepare for every possibility around every corner. But like you're ready to, that was, your nervous system's response to that, your brain trying to protect you, but you're ready to move on and process that and balance yourself out and move forward emotionally, right? Move into a new state, right? Be aware that you don't need to live in a state of hypervigilance over those things anymore, right? Because a lot of times that is just our body's response to not really having been able to process the whole event that happened, right? And for others of you, it's moving on emotionally into, I heard tentative optimism about the future. But for some of you, neutrality might be easier. It might be a better first step. I almost feel like for some of this group, like group 1 is like the next step from this. So that might speak to some of you. If once you kind of get yourself into a more neutral space, or a little bit less of an anxiety spiral for some of you, that might be like really where you're at. But like, it doesn't matter really where you're at. It's really about the idea that we're opening up to the possibilities of the future, and we're not only focusing on the ones that we don't want to happen the most, right? Like, similar to what I said in group 1, but like taking the what ifs, and instead of being like, what if like the worst happened, it's like, but what if it was like not that bad, and then like, what if it was a little bit better than that? What if it was that actually this happened? And like entertain yourself with the possibilities, like, because like it's really like entertaining the best possible outcome as you see it is like the same as entertaining the worst possible outcome. Neither of them have happened yet. So, remembering that just because something feels more fearful and inspires fear in you does not mean that it's more true is important, right? Like, it's still, like, sometimes we tend to think like idealism and optimism is more delusional than like fear and cynicism, but that's just our brain's like little bias that's like trying to keep us safe. But we're not, most of us aren't like being attacked by like lions in the jungle anymore. So like, I think that what it's grabbing onto is often not helpful for us, right? There's a new way forward, and sometimes we just need to remind our animal brain to calm down for a second, right? Like, we need to remind, and we can retrain our animal brain to respond a little bit better to more optimistic, positive stimuli, But of course, like, that process can take time. It doesn't have to be a huge leap. And it doesn't mean like invalidating your current feelings or like being frustrated with yourself. It means being patient, patient with yourself, tempering the worst case scenario with the best case scenario, and then bringing that pendulum that might be swinging to one extreme and then the other, and like bringing it closer and closer to the middle, right? And so, yeah, there's definitely somewhere where you need to balance out a little bit and rein yourself in. I just heard rein yourself in, rein your mind in, maybe for some of you. And be aware that sometimes swinging to the extremes is part of the balancing act, and you don't need to beat yourself up for it if you feel like you're swinging wildly from like one mood to another or one extreme to another. There are things that might be able to help you with that, but like you don't have to. It can be part of the process sometimes. So let me get some quote cards now to close out. So what's a quote card that will help close out group 3's reminder here? Okay, yep. I already know that's from The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I'll read the quote on the back in a minute, but now, presence, yes, being present. Things like catastrophizing and living in anxiety is, inherently future tripping, right? Living in the future, not living in the present. And so that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I feel like all these groups are really in some way reminders of that, but I feel like everything is, you know what I mean? Because like, present really is all we got. Wow. So many cards want to come out for you guys. I guess you need a little extra, so that's okay. This card also came out in group 2, interestingly. So we have this card here, we have this card here, and we have this card here. I'll read all of them. So we'll start with this one that says, no work or love will flourish out of, it's not from The Power of Now. Huh, that's funny. I thought I remembered that I made it for a quote from The Power of Now, but it's Alan Watts. Also great. No work or love will flourish out of guilt, fear, or hollowness of heart, just as no valid plans for the future can be made by those who have no capacity for living now. Yes, there is definitely, you just need the reminder that if you are like trying to plan for the future and you're only planning for worst case scenario, or you don't even know what to do because you're afraid of like, but what if this, what if that? The plans for the future unfold in the now. So creating your present moment, if it hasn't happened, like I used to do it, there's a few times when I was thinking about like, what kind of life would I want? And I would start to think about like, well, okay, what if I have kids, what would they be like? And, and I would just find myself like spiraling about like, but what if this happens with the kid and I don't know how to do this, and what if that, and what if this, and what if my kid is this and this and they need that, and like worrying about these things that like, girl, you are so far from that possibility right now. Thinking about it is useless. So if you're spiraling like far into the future, catastrophizing what may or may not happen, it's useless. Like you can't do anything about that. Like, and that's also with the 7 of Wands here. I feel like this is like a cross that bridge when you get there kind of thing. Like you'll be up for the challenges that come your way, right? If you step into believing that, like, you are never confronted with anything that you, and only take this if it resonates, but if you're stepping into the idea that, like, you'll never be confronted with anything that you're not capable of overcoming or moving through, then trust that and move forward knowing that you'll know what you need to do when you need to do it. But if it's not happening right now, you don't need to worry about it. It's not yours. It's not. Don't. You know what I mean? We also have this card here with "Nothing good is a miracle, nothing lovely is a dream" from Illusions by Richard Bach. Also, Alan Watson Illusions also came out. Wait, was this? No, this was group 1 too. This was group 1. It wasn't group 2. This was group 1. Yeah, group 1 and group 3 might both resonate with each other. Nothing good is a miracle, nothing lovely is a dream. Again, that negativity bias and realizing that, like, it's not any more delusional than a positivity. I mean, it's not any less delusional than a positivity bias, right? Like, I'm feeling like some of you out there are like, oh, but, like, if I think I could have a happy life in the world that I'm living in right now, I'm being delusional, and really I need to live in fear, and we're all gonna die, and this is awful, and like, I understand. I don't even, like, I'm getting a little, I feel like some of you might be a little frustrated with yourselves because you might be feeling like you don't want to feel that way, or maybe you're frustrated because you feel like a lot of people around you feel that way and you're looking for, like, an alternative perspective. But I just want to say, like, again, no judgment, totally get it. I'm sure you have plenty of reasons to feel validated and feeling that way. I'm sure your brain can grab onto plenty of reasons to validate its fearful way of thinking, but this is about breaking that cycle because, again, catastrophizing about things that have not happened yet, useless. We have this card here as well, which says, ultimate freedom has nothing to do with your life circumstances. It is the freedom of allowing the self to dissolve into the waves of the ocean. It is the freedom that is born through one's absolute trust in life. And I was just saying about, like, trust. This is from Richard Rudd, probably the Gene Keys. And I was just saying about trust in life, trusting. This is where, like, having spiritual belief helps. Because if you're really connected with that and connected with the feeling of the universe, with life, with higher self, whatever speaks to you, you can develop a sense of trust and faith. But, like, you don't have to believe in anything to just develop a sense of trust in yourself, right? But just, like, yeah, trust is really important here. Trust. Like, do a trust fall with the universe right now. That's what you're reminded to build trust with yourself and to build trust with life, right? That's what you're being reminded of. Because if you have that trust, then you'll have faith that what was I going to say? You'll have faith that no matter what's going to happen, you will get through it, right? Like, you will be okay, right? You will find your way. And that doesn't mean everything's going to be sunshine and rainbows all the time. That doesn't mean that if something happens that you didn't expect or you didn't want to happen, that you're doing anything wrong. But it's more like trusting in the process, trusting in the flow, and allowing things to unfold because you actually genuinely, truly don't know how they're going to unfold. And anything can happen. Also, Anything Can Happen by Ellie Goulding coming through. And we also have this last card here, which just has the colors of the bisexual flag. I don't know if that's relevant to the quote, but that just might be a little confirmation or a little shout out for some of you, so take that. But God hath given you one face, and you make yourself another, from Hamlet by William Shakespeare. Interesting. Now, I wish I could remember the original context of this quote. For those of you who do, and you have a message or meaning from that, you can take that. I don't, so I have to take it completely out of context, so my meaning may or may not speak to the original context, and just fair warning there for any Shakespeare nerds or purists. But God hath given you one face, and you make yourself another. I mean, it's about being, like, two-faced, maybe, but also it's about inauthenticity. Because, I don't really get the two-faced vibe here. I don't really think that's what we're going for in this reading. It's more about authenticity in terms of, like, God hath given you one face, and you make yourself another. Okay, I'm taking this two ways. One is the idea that, like, you are who you are remembering your spiritual self, right? Remembering the self that is indestructible, that is all powerful, that fears nothing, that has no need to fear, because we're all made out of so much more than just the physical matter that we are inhabiting right now. But and remembering that, and like allowing the idea that the reality and the bodies and the faces that we have right now are things that we've created for ourselves, and that we're also continually creating, right? Stepping into that role of conscious creator, stepping into that role of like, no matter what's happened in my life, you know, I take responsibility for creating it going forward. Not in the sense that you're like, oh wow, I created something awful, like I'm the worst, you know? Because, and this is, there's a manifestation coach that, one of the only ones I've actually really liked and listened to so far is, sure, there's many good ones out there, but I just haven't delved far and wide into different people in that arena. But Genevieve, I think her name is, there was something I watched from her where she talked about like not blaming yourself for things that seem to not align with the world that you want to create or the reality that you're creating for yourself, because what you're actually learning to do and consciously creating is not identifying with the things that you don't want or agree with in your reality, right? It's not like ignoring it or pretending it's not there. And it's not like being like, oh man, like I can't believe I created that awful thing for myself. You know what I mean? It's more about not disidentifying with it, like not taking on guilt or blame or shame around things like that. Like choosing what you identify as you, making your own face, making your own reality through creating, choosing to take into your identity that which is aligned with you, and testing out what that might be, right? And so that's definitely not the original meaning of this quote, but I just saw in there the idea that you can make your face, yourself, whatever you want it to be. The idea that we're all kind of like a piece of God creating from that space, and also like whatever we're creating is also God creating through us. And when I say God, I mean like the universe or whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? Like the great creator, as the Julia Cameron says in The Artist's Way, the idea that there's a creative force coming through us, and so our desires come from that creative force, so we're creating alongside that force. And so it's also the idea that if you identify with the concept that we've kind of like been given, we are like ourselves, and like our life is a journey of uncovering our true face, it's like there's something about like the fear and the catastrophizing covering up your true face, right? And maybe the idea that you feel like you have to cling to this fear is like a way of you trying to save face. Maybe there's some cases where you feel like if you weren't up in arms or worried about things that like people would think badly of you, because like, because you might be afraid to be happy and joyful and like optimistic in a world where so many people can't be that, and like you might feel bad about that, right? But it's almost like that's your true face though. It's like the optimism and the creativity and the curiosity and the acceptance of the unknown, right? Stepping into that positivity might be, and only take it if it resonates, but might be more aligned with you. On another hand, it doesn't have to, like, you don't have to disown or disregard any of your like anger or fear or frustration or rage or any of the things that come up from you either. It's not about like denying that or shaming that. Again, it's like your emotions are things that can tell you and signify to you what is aligned with you and what isn't. Processing and allowing those to move through you helps you move through the experience of life, and you can use that to create. You know, you don't have to deny that, right? Because I feel like sometimes we get like creating your own identity and creating your own reality confused with like suppressing and shoving away and like distancing ourselves from everything that we don't like. And it's like more nuanced than that, right? It's like a very, it's like a, it's what's the word? There's a word I'm looking for. There's a lot of paradoxes, right, in existence and in reality, right? And so like, it's not about like identifying with like an experience that you don't like, but it's also not about disowning an experience that you don't like and like shoving it away from you, like resisting it. It's like both of those things at once. And I almost am getting like the feeling of like two things at once, like the pink and the blue coming together to make the purple. It's like both two separate things, and then also one, almost like if you are or are not familiar with the concept of bisexuality, there's like, I don't know what the common rhetoric is at the moment, because I'm not like up on all of that now, but like I know that there has been a common rhetoric about bisexuality being like, oh, well, like you're straight and gay, but then people who identify as bisexual are more often like, no, but I'm like actually a third thing, right? Like I like multiple different genders, and like I am in, and like it's not like an either or, it's not like a both, it's like a both and a separate thing altogether, right? It's like it's its own identity, right? So that might speak to you in some way in terms of like expanding your thinking beyond either or, looking at what it would be if it's both, and what if also it's like a secret third thing, or like, you know, expanding your options, expanding the possibilities. Something in that is really important for this group. It's really hard to convey like what is coming through to me right now. It's like, just like the paradoxes of manifestation can be really difficult. Maybe I'll link Genevieve's channel, because she does a really good job at like explaining paradoxes in a way that makes a lot of sense. But I feel like that kind of thinking and like being able to wrap your mind around the paradoxes, being able to feel that, like, especially because I feel like sometimes you can't really wrap your mind around it, but it's more like your deeper understanding underneath your mind that gets a hold of it, that understands it. And if you can get that, internalize that might help you move through the complex times that you're in, right? Where because you might be dealing with a lot of complicated emotions and thoughts and things like that, and the answer might not be in either this or that. It might be something new you haven't considered before, or a new way of thinking about and perceiving the world around you that is just more nuanced. It delves into a deeper level of understanding that allows you to step out of this kind of fear mode that I feel like a lot of you have been in. And it's a reminder of that, and because it might be something that you've understood and you just need a little brush up on it. So hopefully something that I said here has kind of triggered that, re-triggered that, gotten you to sort of sink deeper into that, because I feel like it will help you moving forward. So yeah, this was all longer than I thought it would be, but that's fine. It was fun. I hope you enjoyed it. I think that's all I got. So please like, comment, subscribe. I would love to hear in the comments what you thought, what your intuitions were that came up during this, or if you had your own sort of epiphanies or things like that. I would also love it if you were interested and you wanted to have a personal reading. We do offer those on our website, sunflowerphilosophy.com, link in the description. And then we also do offer hypnosis services, and my mom does human design services. If you're interested in learning more about that, you can check that out as well. And I hope you have a wonderful life. I will see you in another reading again sometime very soon. Bye!